I've sold over $7 million in deals, and I've also coached hundreds of salespeople to increase their sales. So what I'll be sharing with you is one of the coaching calls I did with the salespeople that I trained, so you can learn from it, you can implement, and you can make more sales. Let's dive in. Okay, looks like Pierre, your hand was up first. Let me go ahead and pull you up, man.
All right.
How can I help?
Yeah, bro. No, so a lot of improvement in terms of like anything that's between 5 to 10K, I'm closing at like 30% at the moment, 30,
Uh-huh.
30%, and getting at
Yep.
least 50% cash collected.
Okay.
But I've been getting these 28K programs where I'm selling biz up.
Mhm.
So people that want to start a coaching business, but I'm getting this like the objection of like, oh, you might scam me, even though like the company's pretty reputable.
Mhm.
So I don't know if I should be like changing my approach with these like higher end clients or what I should be doing differently maybe before the call to like increase trust. Because anyone that doesn't know us, it's like the same objection that keeps coming up.
Okay. So as far as like the 5 to 10K offer versus the 28K offer, what is the differentiating like factor of like how you pitch?
So it's one-on-one with the CEO, unlimited access, and they
Okay.
get this.
Well, I'm saying like, do you pitch both of them or are you just pitching one?
No, just one.
Okay. So what's the factor that decides, okay, I'm pitching them 28K?
If they have more money.
But is there like a cutoff? Like what goes to your mind when you're pitching in 28K?
Um, I mean, yeah, just if they have more money and if they want to get results faster, it's just anyone that has like if they come from a business background, these are the people that I usually pitch the 28K for.
Okay. So like they've had a business, but then they're looking to start like online coaching business, like that type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got to take a look at what is going to be the easiest path because there's things we can do on the call, but there's also things we can do like just through our sales process. Because how long have you been on this offer?
Almost a year.
Okay, so almost a year. So of those people who you've sold the lower tier package, how many have you upsold?
None.
Okay, so when we're talking about we want to get the 28K package, right? We want to get people across the line there. The easiest people to sell are people who already bought shit from you.
Right.
So we got to take a look. Would it, because like, have we gotten those 28K people across the line or we've never gotten those people across the line?
No, see the it's like a colder audience that didn't really buy anything from us. Yeah. We don't have any
Okay.
local
So
gifts for them.
we got to take a look. Like we can take a look at the actual process. What do they see? How much they're indoctrinated into it? Because you got to take a look in their perspective as far as if they don't know much about you and like you're pitching 28K, like it's just more of a hefty amount versus like 5 to 10. So we got to take a
Right.
look. Would it be more beneficial of everyone you just pitched a lower amount and then you have touch points and those people who have more money, who are more prime, who are getting results, we upsell them.
Okay. So like focusing more on up like getting them in the program already and then trying to upsell.
Yeah, that's probably going to be the easiest way to do it. Just the easiest way to get
Yeah.
to like the 28K because you can sell that on the front end. I'm not saying you can't. There are maybe some things, and it's hard to say exactly without taking a look at the whole process, without like dissecting these calls of like what's going
Sure.
to be the biggest factor of what's causing it. If they're saying there's a lack of trust, maybe they're just not indoctrinated enough. Maybe there's something that we're doing that is causing that lack of trust where they don't feel like we know their problems as much, something we're doing on the conversation. I know we've had a talk before about people who are more well off, like us actually breaking through their mask and getting to real problems, creating urgency. So it could be all those things combined or just one of those things that really stick out. It's hard to say without listening
Yeah.
to the calls. But let's just talk about for you, how do we just make more money right away? The easiest way, just pitch everyone the 5 to 10K offer and then upsell.
Mm-hmm. So do you think I should try upselling like right after they buy, like on the same call, or should I just keep
Couple
them in the
weeks.
program? Okay.
So
But
with everyone that you do sell, and this goes for everyone, if you have an upsell, here's how you go about it. Typically in the 5 to 10K program, when do they start seeing like some positive results? Not when they see the peak results, but they start seeing positive results. Like what's the time frame on that?
Yeah, because like it takes us a week or two to really just identify what they can offer online in terms
Okay.
of, like writing down their skills, hobbies, expertise, and doing some competitor analysis.
Mhm.
And yeah, just a lot of them do like the support within a week or two. They feel good
Okay.
about.
So it's like, let's say 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. Here's what I always did 21 days, everyone I sold, we have a check in. Now, there's two things we do with this check in. Number one, we see if they're prime for an upsell. Number two, I'm getting referrals.
Mm,
Okay. So those are going to be two things that are going to be outside of just people getting booked on your calls that can add an extra 5 to 10,000 per month, like in the commissions you're able to make just through upselling people and getting referrals.
dude, that's fucking nuts, man. Because like right now, I've already sold 17 deals this month alone. I
Mhm,
Yeah, I don't check in after. I usually check in just to collect the rest of the payments, but never
mhm.
ask for a referral. And I keep forgetting on the call to ask for a referral.
So you can ask for it on the call, but like literally what you can do is like, hey man, something I want to do, something I do for every client that comes in is we have a 21-day check-in. Like, and you can go take a look at the times where there's the lowest show rate. Typically, it's going to be Monday morning and Friday afternoon. Typically, it's a little bit different for everyone, but take a look at the data. I always did this Friday afternoon because anyone who books in at that time, guess what? They're not showing anyways. Okay. So I just have 2 to 3 hours every Friday afternoon of people who have already sold to talk to them about upsells. And you have to take into account like 21 days, not everyone's just going to upsell. Like you gotta see where they're at. You can nurture them, get them to that next stage, but then also like for referrals. And a lot of these people, again, they're not going to have somebody off the top of their mind right away, but like we put that seed in their mind that like, oh, who else could be good for this? And they're really starting to buy into it as well. And then you keep on top of those people. So I'd say 21-day check-in for everyone, typically Friday afternoon when nobody shows anyways. That way you have those extra touch points, you get upsells and you get referrals.
Okay. And is there anything specific that you say on the call, like after I sold them to prime them for the check-in? Or like, is there any words that you use?
Yeah, so it's just like, hey man, like congrats, jumping on board, right? You ready, pumped up, like you kind of give them that affirmation afterwards. And it's like, hey, and something I do, this is like outside of the program, but I really care about everyone who I bring in. So we have like a 21-day check-in just to see if there's any extra support I can give you along the way. Do you think something like that would be helpful just so you have some extra support?
Awesome.
It's like again, you can book it for like 15 to 30 minutes. You stack them Friday afternoon or Monday morning, again, when people are less likely to show anyways. And that way you have the touch points with everyone. And if you get proficient at it, I would say you should at least be able to upsell. Like if we're being conservative, maybe like a fourth of the people that you're bringing through. So if right now you're selling what 17 people or so per month, like if we're talking about, you should be getting like 4 upsells a month, like one a week.
Bro, that's fucking nuts, man. I mean, if that's an extra 5K, like
Yeah.
20 at 10, yeah, that's another like 400
And
bucks,
just, yeah. And
800.
then everyone that you upsell, they're much more likely to give you a referral too, because they're really bought into what you guys are doing. So then,
Do
like, it just compounds on itself.
Yeah. And do I ask for the upsell before the referral, or how do
So
you?
you go ahead, you have a check in, right? Like, I have the referral script back there, so take a look at that, see what type of results that they're getting, okay, and then you want to start planting seeds, right? Like right, like where they're at, where's that next step for them? Where are they really looking to be going? If there's a way that we can get it done faster, like, would they be open to it?
Okay.
Because like something like just make it sound more like an exclusive thing, right? Like, something, so Max, right? Something Max allows me to do for the students that are really crushing it. He has this mastermind where you actually have that one-on-one time with him. And what that does, it really just accelerates the results so we can really start crushing it. Right. So he lets me really flag the top students that get the opportunity to go ahead and do that. Is that something you'd
Yeah.
even like be open to? Like getting more hands-on help like that? Now,
Okay.
again, I would typically book in another chat to talk about an upsell versus just trying to get it closed on that 30-minute chat. Because again, if there's objections, different things along those lines, then you're just running into uh, yeah, bad territory, because you're gonna try to close them in. And sometimes you can, like, the upsell super fucking easy. Just oftentimes, like, you'd be surprised if people just know that there's something more, there's something else, like they'll just give you, like, there's so many upsells I've done over text. Yo,
Yeah.
we just run the same card. Okay, cool, man. You just got to let them know that there's a thing.
All right. And sorry, one last question. In terms of the 21-day check-in, if let's say they don't have any referral and they don't have any upsell, would I set another 21-day check-in, or what would be the next step from there?
Yeah, so as far as like keeping touching base with them, so it just depends on the person. Like if you feel like, okay, they don't have that right now, but they're going to be prime for an upsell or prime for referrals, like continue to check in on them. Like you don't always have to set it in like a meeting, but like you continue to check in, continue to see how things are going, right? You can call them up, see what's going on. So it just depends. Like if they're somebody that it's like, hey, there's I'm probably not going to get at something out of this person, which is fine. Like sometimes that's going to happen if somebody you sold in, like, hey, this person's not really doing the work or they're kind of disgruntled, then yeah, I probably won't waste more time trying to get like, you know,
I
upsells
gotcha.
or
Okay.
so it just
Just
depends on like if they're super happy, keep in touch with them. And like maybe they won't upsell like in a month, maybe 2 months, 3 months. Cause how long is the program?
so we have it depends on the guarantee, because we have a guarantee that we keep working with them until they generate their first 10K.
Mm-hmm.
It's optional. I don't usually pitch it on the front end, it's only after objections. And yeah, so it's usually 3 months or however long it takes,
Okay.
or 6 months
So
for the 10K or however long it takes.
yeah, so 3 months. So every single person who gets done with the program, you should be talking to them about upselling.
Mm-hmm.
Every single person. So if you've been there for a year, take a look at everyone who's been through the program. And if you know like, hey, what the results are, like the testimonials, especially people who have left testimonials, like you need to call them up, just have a chat, like, hey, like Max is doing this, special thing for the top students. He left us a really crazy testimonial. He's really wanting to take people like if there's an extra result they get from it, like you can pull that up. Like, is that something you'd be open to having a conversation about?
I gotcha.
Like call them up, send out text blasts to every single person who's been in the program. And if you're not the only closer there, right? Hit up everyone else's sales too. Okay. Especially if they're not like, again, depending on like how like what you can do. Like for most companies I've sold for, if it's like if you haven't touched them in like 30 days, they're free. So I don't know if you guys have that same rule, whatever. But like
Yeah.
hit up
Yeah.
everyone's sales,
If you're
man.
finding this valuable, go ahead, leave a like and subscribe. And if you want more hands-on help with me, go ahead and check out the links in the
One
description.
salesman, right? Upsell, upsell, upsell. And you can just start to like set, like again, if you have close, what you can do is you can just have like automated text blast and email blast, just telling people about it. Like you'd be surprised if you just let people know, they'll buy your shit. Like they've already spent 5 to 10K with you guys.
Dude, good stuff. Okay, so just focus on getting them into the program, these like people that are a little bit on the
Mhm.
colder end, and then just try to upsell them 21 days later.
Yep. And right now, I'd say homework for you, man. Go to all the people who have already been sold and try to upsell them. Like if you
Yeah,
really hammer that hard, like in your free time, your no shows, things like that, you should be able to at least get like 2 or so, like per week.
that's a lot of fucking money.
Especially if you have a lot of volume and a lot of people have been through the program, which it sounds
Yeah,
like you guys do.
yeah, bro. Fucking amazing. Thank you, man.
Get after it, man. Hopefully that helps.
Dude, amazing.
Alrighty. Okay, Solomon, let me go ahead. Let me pull you up here, man.
Great. How's it going,
Howdy,
Chris?
howdy, dude.
Hey,
It's
man.
going pretty well, man.
Good to hear. I kind of wanted to get your take. I've been retooling. I've been going back and listening to my calls, and I feel like
Uh-huh.
I kind of had this like gut feeling that the transition between solution awareness part one to
Uh-huh.
solution awareness part two is where a lot of these calls, not a lot of them, but I'd say I would say just about between about like a fourth to about half of these calls, where this call kind of goes a bit sideways. And what I mean by
Okay.
that is when you kind of start off with the kind of like the phrasing. So let's do this, right? Just just to see if like what we do could actually even work for you. But besides like getting like the right price, because that's what everyone tells us. Like, what would you actually be looking for as far as like an offer? Like, what would be maybe your ideal criteria? I'd say like about 25 to about 50%, not so much as I guess recently within the last month, but
Mhm.
even before then, it still gets triggered like, well, what do you actually mean by that? Like, what do you, that's kind of what comes up.
So
And yeah, go ahead.
what exactly do you sell, just so I can have that context?
Oh yeah, so I'm actually a real estate investor, so we purchase properties from homeowners directly.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you're purchasing it from homeowners. So besides just, wanting to get the right price, like what would you be looking for like in an actual, I guess like partner when it comes to like just making sure we get the right deal across and everything is, really dialed in, all the dots are or I's are dotted and T's are crossed. What do you feel like you
yeah,
would need? Right. And you can maybe even lead them a little bit more on
okay,
some level with certain
yeah,
types of people. Um, like you don't need that question.
okay. Because I have like another idea just to kind of simplify it, but
Yeah.
like I think Matt Ryder said like don't mess with the script. Like you're the
Mhm.
variable, so you need to like hone in on what you do. But I was
Yeah.
gonna kind of change it to like so like what do you need to like make this like a great deal for you, rather than kind of like the whole ideal criteria.
Yeah. I tend not to like to say ideal criteria because it just
Uh,
confuses people. I would
okay,
say if they have never worked with somebody like in your space before,
yeah,
the ideal like that question, like you don't really need like it doesn't need to be a need
okay,
to be there, especially if you're very much leading in the conversation. So,
okay,
like sometimes I'll skip it, but I would say, like, what would you really need in like a partner who's able to really take care of this deal, and maybe some support with that as well. Like, what do you feel like you would need on that end? Like, you can
okay,
lead them a little bit more. You can spell it out for them.
okay.
Just if you're going to do that, if you're going to like spell it out for them, you just have to
Hmm.
make sure that we get them to expand on why that's important to them.
Okay, okay, got it.
Does that
All
make
right.
sense?
Yeah, I think that does. So it just there's like some like nuances within like the scripting that like I said, I don't really want to mess with it because obviously it's proven it works, but also I kind of feel a little bit awkward like putting those in because it's just part of like that structure for
Well,
that particular phase. Yeah.
what would be a good answer for you? Like, what are you searching for with that
Um,
question?
yeah, so typically the owners that work with us to sell their properties are ones that like to sell their house like as is, where they don't have to do any sort of like repairs. They don't have to go through the entire like real estate market
Mhm.
of like fixing, listing, and then ultimately selling their home in 3 to 6 months. And then
Mhm.
also they're typically owners that have been there for like a long time, so anywhere between 20 to 30 years, and they've accumulated
Mhm.
like a lot of things within the property. And so one way that we've helped owners in the past is we'll actually hire movers to pack the things
Mhm.
that they actually want, and then they can just leave everything that they don't. So it kind of saves time on both ends, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So something you can do, and
Hmm.
again, if you feel like you're not getting these things out of them, you can just say what
Hmm.
you just said.
Okay.
And just so I have a better understanding, and just so we can have a better understanding about the conversation, like how we help specific people, and you can explain it out. So, what would you be looking for besides obviously the price? Like, what
Okay.
do you feel like you right? Then you could just go right into it. So you just explain a little bit about what you do, and you give them more context to the question, which is just going to
Uh,
clear up the confusion that's going to come along with it.
okay. So you think pre-framing some of I guess the things that we actually do will kind of
Yeah.
help. Okay, it's like an upstream. Okay, thing. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So if you just pre-frame it, like, and then now they have some things that, like, okay, this would be an appropriate answer for this.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
oh, that's like, because you got to think in their mind, especially if they've never worked with anybody like you before, like, they don't
Hmm.
know
Okay.
unless you tell them.
Right. So then, but you said even if they say latch on to one of your examples, now you got to get them to
Mhm.
essentially justify why that's important to them, though,
Yeah.
not just kind
They're
of accept
like,
it. Okay.
yeah, they're like, oh, well, yeah, I just want to sell it as is. That's what I really want to do. Oh, why is that important to you?
Okay.
Right. And get them to expand on it so we can make it their idea.
Got it. Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Christian.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Absolutely, man. All righty. Nate, let me go ahead. Let me pull you up here, man. Howdy, howdy, dude.
Yo, howdy. Not too okay, bro. Like, I'm fumbling, and I sent you a bunch of messages, but like, I just had this one call,
Yeah.
and it pissed me off so much because I went through emotions. I went through the, happily married, tend not to go on dates. I went through all that stuff, and I just kept getting like, I'm just looking to improve. I went through rationale. The guy was still like, I'm just looking to improve. And I just didn't know where to go. So do you
So
mind?
do you have the call?
Yeah, I could find it in my CRM right now.
Yeah, if you have the call, it's probably going to be the best thing to actually listen to it. But what I sent to you is like, what even makes you feel like there is room to improve with what you've seen so far in your business?
And then what if they said like, I'm just always looking to improve? Because I feel like that's exactly what that motherfucker would have said again.
Yeah, but why do you feel like there is even room to improve? Because some people are totally fine with the marketing they have.
Okay. I have the call right here. You mind if I play it? I have to join my. Okay, I'll just play it through my Mac speakers. That should work.
Okay. Let's see.
It might be a bit fucking sketchy, but
Yeah, no worries, man.
okay. Here.
Oh, this is Bob. Hey, Bob. It's just Nathan, like Nathan Mathura. Cody may just ask me to give you a shout and just have some time to get back to see if I could help. Yeah, it just kind of looks like you requested some training around getting some more appointments. Looks like a couple of weeks ago or something. And yeah, man, I'm just kind of wondering, like, how are you? I guess like currently generating business? Is it just in like SOI or do you have
Pause.
for you?
So it's like when we have that, especially like we have a little bit of like a very long intro. You just say, hey, does that ring a bell? Right. Start to get some buy-in, like, hey, like they even remember this.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so before I go into like how you're generating business, I should just go into does that ring a bell?
Yeah. It's like, hey man, it looks like you went ahead, you left your information, you told us to call you back. It looks like on Thursday here. Just had a moment to get back to you. Does that ring a bell? Okay, and as far as then you can just go into it. It's like, well, what even caused you to, reach out in the first place?
Okay. Okay, cool. All right.
multiple sources?
Yeah. Okay, I guess. Yeah, and I guess like I was like, what have you seen in your business that would even have you open to like a different way of getting appointments?
So what it costs and how effective it is.
Yeah, well, like, why would you even be like open to like a different way of getting like more appointments?
Why would I be open?
Yeah, like, yeah.
Because I'm a businessman and I like to, and I'm always looking for a better mousetrap or a better way to create business.
Pause.
So I guess I just
Okay, so he said, I'm looking for a better way to do something. Now, when he says I'm looking for a better way, what is he saying about his current way that he's doing it?
it's not working up to the level he'd like to.
Exactly. So he's admitting that there is a problem. We just got to pick up on his language.
Okay, so what I've just probed in there and like clarified.
Yeah. What do you mean by better? So what have you actually seen in your business right now? If you had to take a look back at it, that makes you feel as though there are better ways to do it. You see how it's going to be very hard for him to be like, to give you vague answers because I'm taking exactly what he said.
Yeah.
And just plugging it right in. So we got to pick up on the language that he is using.
Okay. Yeah, because I feel like that might be the big problem because like I'm getting that same thing a lot, and it just might just be like me not picking up on the language.
Yeah. So if they're saying like better, just like I'm trying to get more leads. How do you mean by more leads? So what have you seen so far with the way that you're currently generating leads that makes you feel as though like you could get more leads? Like what's going on with your current like way to generate lead, right? So it's like, what's going on with your current that makes you feel as though there could be better, that you could generate more, whatever it is.
Okay. Yeah, because from here I just go into rationale, and then it just does better.
Yeah. So just I would say slow down, Don't overthink it too much.
Okay.
Okay. Nobody says you have to go fast. All right. I know with real estate agents, they're a very squirrely bunch,
Yeah.
but yeah, just take your time and just pick up on his language. So that's all I'd be looking for, especially very early on in the conversation. All I'm looking for are like words or phrases that they're admitting that they have a problem. And if he says he's looking for a better way to do it, then that means he feels like there is a better way to do it. So he's not totally satisfied with what he currently has.
Okay. So and then from there you just go into like what have you seen in your business that even has you looking for a better way?
Yeah. Well, it's like, what do you mean by better?
Okay. So clarify.
Because he can go two different ways with that. He can say, oh, wow, like I just want more leads or things like that. Or he can go with the negative of what he's currently doing. So he can go two different ways. Either one is fine. Then
Okay.
it just like, well, what makes you feel as though, like, what are you seeing in your business right now that makes you feel that there is a better way to do it? Oh, I'm not getting as much leads as I want. Well, what are you currently doing now, though? And how long? So, what do you feel like is actually missing in your marketing strategy that's caused you not to get the amount of leads that you're looking for?
Okay. Okay. Cool. All right. I'm
That
gonna
makes
try that.
sense.
All right. Thank you, man.
Okay. I know Gibbon, he sets appointments for a very, very similar audience, right? Like real estate agents.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh
So you guys
shit.
can always connect and share notes and go through that. So hopefully
That was good.
Omar as well. Everyone's telling real estate agents. Wow. Gosh,
Okay.
man. Okay. So hopefully that helps, man.
All right. Thank
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Yemen, let me go ahead. Let me pull you up here, man. Howdy, dude.
Sorry, can you skip me for now?
Yeah. What's going on? Okay. Omar, let me go ahead. Let me pull you up here, man. Howdy, man.
Okay, I'll take it. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yep.
Okay, actually, I just joined yesterday. So, okay, just for context, up till this moment, I haven't been in any sales calls, like zero. Now, I watched all your YouTube videos, so I understand everything in terms of the actual sales calls and theory. Okay, we'll
Yeah.
see. Okay. Now, what I'm trying to understand is everything leading up to the actual sales call, right? How can I set up the sales call, in the right way, the proper way? So
Yeah.
currently, I'm relying on cold calls.
Mhm.
So from what I've seen so far, is I go through the interrupt pattern, whatever, all this good stuff, then situation, problem, what they mean. Okay. Now the first meeting, I don't actually know how does that look like. How should like what kind of goals I'm aiming for, what exactly I'm trying to achieve in this first meeting.
Yeah.
And I think next is the actual system. So
So when we're talking about going from cold call, and then are we trying to close it on the second call?
I don't think so because it's B2B and usually I'm assuming they have multiple decision makers. So I feel like
What's the size of business that you're reaching out to?
from 10 employees to 50 usually.
So typically, if you're able to speak to the owner, like they would be able to make decisions, right? Like now again, it's going to vary, but we'd want to understand what their decision making process is. But let's just say I would say for a majority, a small to medium sized business, you got one decision maker. Typically, again, it does vary, so it's not going to be like that for everyone. So I would say when you're going from a cold call to a meeting, what you need is they need some indoctrination, right? They need to see something of your expertise, what you do. Highly, highly, highly recommend something like a video sales letter that explains what you do. Okay. What results of how, if you don't have results, then you rely more on the mechanism.
Yeah, actually, I heard from Matthew Ryder before. He said like kind of giving them a homework after the cook, and you're telling them, I'm going to send you an email. You have to check it out. And this email has the case study with whatever,
Yeah.
I don't know the rest.
So
So
as far as giving them the homework, again, like we never want to come at it as a frame of, hey, I'm going to send you this over. You have to go through it. Because again, like first and foremost, who liked homework in school, right? Like that's the frame that you got in school. I never did my homework. So it always has to come from a place of you're genuinely trying to help them. Okay. So this is how I'm going to typically frame any type of homework. And by the way, we've helped quite a few people with like XYZ. Do you think it would be helpful if I actually sent you over a bit of resources of how we actually help them? Like, oh yeah, that would be helpful. Okay, perfect. So the video goes over A, B, and C. Would it be better to send it over via email or via text? Like, what do you think? Like email. Okay, cool. I'll send it over an email. And do you mind if I just text you just to make sure you got that all right? Okay, cool. Like, so then like you send an email, you send a text. If they got it all right, they're gonna go through it. If you have a problem with people not going through it, you can always get like a time frame of when they're going to go through it, but like don't add that in right now until like you like have some data back, like, okay, nobody fucking goes through your homework. Then there's some different things you can do to just make sure they do go through the homework, but it always comes from the frame of help. Then like let's say they have a VSL, I would say depending 5 to 15 minutes. You can do longer if you feel like you're really good at storytelling, but 5 to 15 minutes is probably going to be a good sweet spot. Like the video that I just put out like earlier this week, that is like a form of a VSL, like on my YouTube channel. So it's like you can take a look at that. But with that, it also had some training and stuff in there too. So
it has to be
take
a
it with a
video,
grain of
or
salt.
maybe just an email is enough.
No. So first and foremost, you need to build trust. The best way to build trust is they see your face, they see you know what you're talking about, you have authority. These are all things you want to build. It's not going to build via email. So it's like people like people. Okay. They don't, you know what I mean? So it's like the personal touch is what's going to really separate you. Okay. So, and again, it may take some time as far as like you filming yourself 10 separate times before you realize, like, okay, this one I actually sound confident. Right. Which is fine because you got to also understand that barrier to entry. That's what separates you from other people. You know what I mean?
So this video is more like for them to get to know me before they actually hop on the call. Right?
Exactly. Get to know you. And then you can also do some indoctrination. So we want to start to either now, again, if you're selling more marketing services, simple thing you can do is like, how are you different? Because that's going to be a big thing you're going to run into again if you're cold calling people.
Right.
Like, exactly. So it's like you can do like an us, like me versus them type of frame on your VSL, and like your entire video is just explaining how you're different than normal marketing companies and like why they've been burned before by other marketing companies and how you're different.
Okay. In terms of this video, what do you feel like the mandatory points that I should be going over? I don't know, like the case study has to be there. What else should we include?
So result you're gonna give, who you are, and results you've gotten, and how you get those results. Like it can literally be that simple. Like you can just have a Google Doc. It doesn't need to be super elaborate, but it's like who you are, who you work with, the type of results you get. Like you just go over all of that. Like there's like you can go on YouTube and there's a ton of videos of people just like laying it out. Like there's a ton of different ways that you can do a VSL, a ton of different ways you can structure it.
Okay. So it's more like me personally talking to them instead of me saying, oh, the company does this and that, right? Talk to them personally. As in, I'm the salesperson representing this company and you're working with me. Okay.
So if you're working with another company and they already have some of these things, if they have marketing assets, then you can use that too. So it's going to depend. So it depends on what you have.
And in terms of the first meeting, if I have the boss, the CEO, I just go to the actual system, right? There's no need for other decision makers in terms of small businesses. Well, when I have, for example, marketing manager, then maybe I need to actually invite the other decision makers to the second call.
So like, yeah, so it's just really going to depend, because if you don't have the decision maker and you can't get them on a call, then maybe it's going to be 3 steps. But just make sure like in between each steps, there are things like you're sending over to them and you're giving them things to like go through. Because the thing is, we want people to spend we want them to invest in us. The easier way to get them to invest first is to invest in their time. Okay? Like just think about the buyer journey that got you here. Like how much time did you invest in watching me before like we're having this chat right now?
Yeah, maybe 2 months, maybe 3.
Right? But it's like there's hours of content like I have out. So it's like legitimately we've talked for hours, but like we really have, you know what I mean? So it's like you make these things once and then they last for a long time. So I would say that's going to be the biggest thing, and just have that in between. As far as like from the cold call to then now we're having the second call, like make sure they go through it. So you can ask them like, hey, did you go through it? What'd you think of it? And just so we're on the same page, a bit of a recap of the last meeting. You told me like you're running into XYZ problem. Like, is that right? And then you can you move on with the process. Wherever you left off, typically it's right before a rush. Yeah. Typically you get like through some part of the problem section and you just pick back up right after that. Okay. So like wherever you are, like in your process, you just pick back up there. If you want to, you can
like,
always.
What do you feel like it's causing? Maybe what do you feel like something you're doing or not doing that causing you to have this problem? You said earlier in your cold call, yeah.
Yeah. So you just pick back right up, you dive into problem, and then you just go through the rest of the process. If you're going for a 1 call close, you obviously present and then you get it. Okay.
So, let's say I didn't get a hold of the decision maker. I'm now in the first meeting with the marketing manager. Let's just say, besides bringing the boss in the next meeting, what else could they actually ask or get more information, right?
What is the decision-making process for bringing on somebody like whatever you're doing, whatever service you're providing? What is the decision-making process to get that done?
Can I ask
that's a big
questions?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing you're gonna need to know. Like, what's the decision-making process? So you got to see what channels it goes through, because if, for example, depending on how it's structured, if it's a marketing manager, they have discretionary spending that they can do. So if you fall beneath that, then it's like fan-fucking-tastic. You try to close them right then and there. But if you don't, then you know you got to book another call. So first things first, you just need to know where you could even take it, if anywhere. So you just got to understand like what's the decision-making process typically for bringing on like an agency to get XYZ done. Right? You don't want to ask like, hey, who makes the decision? Because again, like egos get involved. Like, what's the decision-making process?
Okay.
Makes sense?
Do you know any way for me to actually look at something concrete? Because I understand in theory, right?
Yeah.
But is there anything concrete or a script or kind of example for me to look at? So when I'm actually in the first appointment, I can talk, not just make something up. That makes sense.
So when you're saying like, what would you be wanting to see? Because I know in the framework, like I have again, like how to start like a meeting, blah blah blah, like the follow-ups, all those things. Some of it is just going to be you're going to have to do it, right? So just so you have
improvise basically.
Well, it's basically just recap and pick back up where you left off. Like that's really all like you have to do to start the second meeting. Just like, hey, just so we're on the same page, does this sound right? Right? Get some buy-in on that. And then from there, you just pick back up wherever you left off in the process. So if you go back into the framework, like I have the process laid out step by step. You also see my personal script, everything like is all, explained out there. So it's like you should be able to at least like craft at least a rough draft like of a process from beginning all the way to end. Typically, like you leave off on the cold call in the problem section and you just pick right back up from where you left off. And then you just go through the rest of the process. And then also as well, if you do take a look in the classroom too, I've done like in the one-on-one sessions, like the call recordings, there's a couple of them that I've done specifically for like script writing. If you take a look for service-based
Okay.
businesses and lead generation offers as well.
Okay, that's good. Okay,
Okay.
just to summarize what I understand, from what I understand is cold call.
Okay.
Done right, book the meeting, and with the pre-sale video, which is the homework, the first meeting, if they can't buy, I just do it. I go for it. If they can't, I see this is the decision maker process and how they make decision in general, and set up another call for the actual session. Does that make sense? Everything sensible, right? Good.
Yeah. And I would
Yeah.
say if you need more clarity on the actual scripting and things like that, like you can either go through the framework or have like one-on-one calls specifically with people who are in like lead generation, who do split it up in 2 calls. So you can see, and it might not fit exactly the same, but it's going to be similar enough to where hopefully, and if you have any questions on how to put the pieces together, just go ahead and let me know.
Yeah, that's amazing, by the way. Thank you for your thank you for your effort, right? Especially for someone broke like me. I mean, I can't believe so much value.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Let's make some fucking money, dude. All right, let's get
Exactly.
after it, man. All right. Yimin, are you good to go?
I am now.
Okay, hell yeah, bro. Let's dive in. Yeah, can I help?
So, okay. So we recently blasted out a lower ticket,
Yeah.
kind of like a revival text. The trouble I am running into right now is because like that text is basically telling everybody like, hey, we're basically doing like most of the program, but like for $4.97. So I'm getting on these calls, right? And all the conversation is just like, hey, like, just tell me what you do, right? Like, what do you do for that $4.97? And I'm trying to use like hey, we'll have to understand, you know, this to see if we can help. But like I'm just finding like they really want to just find out what that $4.97 thing does. So how can we frame
you're
that?
talking to people who have already been pitched and then you're trying to downsell them basically.
Yeah. So the company blasts out to everybody, plus really old leads. So some of the leads don't even remember us.
Okay. So just understand, like, that's just going to be an uphill battle. Like, most of what you're going to be doing is just objection handling, especially if they've already been pitched before.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why, like, with stuff like this, like, typically I would send, like, salespeople who can objection handle and things after it, because most of, like, they've already been presented, like, the full kit and caboodle, and then now they're, like, just getting sold a downsell. Like, honestly, if they just made a good landing page, they probably don't even need anybody. You know what I mean? Like, you probably just get sales coming in. But just understand, like, most of what you're going to be doing is just going to be like objection handling, because you're talking about something that's like $500. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they've already been pitched before. They already like said no. So it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle. Okay.
Yeah.
Because these are all people who haven't bought. They told you no before. And now we're like, okay, well, do you want something cheaper?
Yeah.
Some people will say, yes, you'll make some sales. But like, is he wanting you to close the deals or book these people in?
Close.
Okay. So it's like, dude, you just got to fucking just like,
yeah.
Like we're snapping necks right now.
So we go straight into like objection handling. We're just like not a ton of like what
you like, so did they raise their hand, or like how did people, like, how do you know who to call? Or are you just calling random people?
Basically the text says, hey, reply yes, and one of our guys will reach out to you. So they reply yes. Some of the people
so
have been
cool.
really
so
old.
Like what you'll do is you'll just like basically have an abbreviated sales process, because again, especially with the very low ticket offer, like something you're going to run into is like, we just need to do volume. So is it going to be beneficial for you to stay on a call with somebody for a fucking hour when you could have talked to 3 other people and got 3 other sales? You know what I mean? So it's going to be abbreviated sales process. So it's like, hey, what even had you interested in to begin with? Right? Like you just started, I just wanted to know what you do. Yeah, we could definitely go over that for sure. Like they told me, like, again, if I don't want to just sell you something just to sell you something. So we really just need to make sure like we can even help in the first place. So if you don't mind, like what would even help? Like what would help you're looking for? Like whatever it is, because you do more lead generation, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like, what has you open to maybe looking at a different way to get more leads, right? So you can just go right into it. I would say an abbreviated problem, and then like I wouldn't deal too much into solution. I'll just go to consequence. Like, well, what if you don't get
Okay.
this solved, and just fucking pitch them?
Because they're already
Like,
solution aware then.
yeah, like they know who you guys are. They've already been pitched everything before. So just
if they
like
don't?
shorten that. Then it's like, then why'd you respond to the text? Like, what stood out to you, man?
Right. Okay. So they still have a problem.
Yeah, they still have a problem. So, and just understand that the threshold to get somebody to give you $500 is a lot lower. So it's like you probably don't need to spend as much time. I would just
Right.
abbreviate the sales process, and then you're just gonna get good at objection handling, man. You're gonna have to objection handle some real estate
Okay.
agents.
Right. So it's really just like a short sales process and
Yeah.
objection handling. Okay.
Yeah, volume is a key, man. I would say, because like, how many leads do you have that like responded yes?
3 a day.
Like 3 a day?
A
Well,
lot
how
of them
much?
just a lot of them say stop to unsubscribe.
Okay, so we got like 3 a day. Okay, so it's not as much volume as I thought it was.
Mhm.
So if we have 3 a day, then we could probably spend a little bit more time with each person. So it just really depends.
Yeah. They up the
but if you
commission, so it's actually worth doing it.
Okay, cool. So I'd say maybe you can spend a little bit more time, but again, like they've already been presented to before. So like going through the whole sales process again, like you probably get a ton of pushback. So
Yeah.
again, it's just going to come down to presenting, objection handling, and just taking it from there.
Gotcha.
Make sense?
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super short sell process, objection handle.
Yeah, like 5, maybe
Sure.
10 minutes as far as like the discovery.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, nothing too crazy.
Some of them, most of them are just months old. So like, the closer notes are just not as, they don't really bring much in
Yeah.
terms of information.
Yeah, it's a
But-
little bit of a wonky process, but
Yeah.
get-
I guess
make
we'll
some
go
fucking
for
money,
a shorter
dude.
one then. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll sling some
Yeah,
deals.
let me know how it goes, and if you have like any feedback, like on a call or something, just go ahead and post it in the group, and I'll take a look.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Cool, man. Alrighty, Josh, let me go ahead. Let me pull you up here.
Sounds good, man.
Howdy, dude.
Hey. So, got some questions about pre-handling
Uh-huh.
objections, like in the first part of solution awareness.
Uh-huh.
I'm on an offer for hair solutions, right? Like hair restoration. So when I ask, like, before we spoke today, what have you been doing about really solving this for yourself so you can feel more confident when you're out in business or with your friends or whatever? A lot of times they have a lot of things they've done. Oh, I've tried different drugs, I've tried the lotions and potions and whatever, and all this other stuff, right? So none of that's worked, but it's not really their fault either, because sometimes that stuff doesn't work. It's not like a thing that they're doing, right?
Yeah. So what do you do that's different? Like, how does it differentiate itself from that?
Because it actually rebuilds the blood flow network that repairs allows the hair follicle to produce healthy hair. Nothing else can do that, and it hasn't really been marketed until like the last year or two.
Do they like work with somebody more hands-on, or is it still just like more of a product?
No, it's a procedure. So they come in for
Oh.
a procedure, right? And
Yeah.
it's an in and out procedure. It actually resolves the root problem with stem cell technology. So it goes in stem cell exosomes, repairs the root of the root problem, which is blood flow, and it lasts on average 10 years instead of having to do this on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. So it's like, well, like, have you like, so let's say they've done all these things that are like, just the basics, basically, right? It's like, well, besides like all the basics, have you gotten anything like more comprehensive to really take care of this issue?
So then they're going to say, I've looked at surgery, but it's been kind of a mixed bag as to results, and that seems really scary. Or I had a friend who did it and it didn't turn out well for him.
Like what surgery?
So they do like a transplant where they actually cut the back of the head, pull hair from there, and place it in the front. And there's some people get good results, some people it falls out afterward, some people go bald around it. So
yeah, it's very interesting because it sounds like you're very much in like a blue ocean. So like they don't really have much to compare it to. So with people like that, I would say we probably don't need to go like as much into it because it's something like different. Because like typically because you're talking about pre-handling objections, like what are the biggest objections like you're running into?
Think about it and money. So one, they
Okay.
don't understand it well enough, right? And I'm trying to send videos out ahead of time to beat that to the punch. The
Yeah.
other thing that I'm doing now is after the first half, I ask them, what information do you feel like you need to know
Mhm.
whether this would be an appropriate procedure for you? And
Yeah.
then I can give them a little bit of education before second half.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like so you have 2 calls with them
No,
or
it's
just
one
one?
call. Yeah, so there's
Okay.
usually like sometimes some triage, but usually it's a one call.
And when they do hop on, are you like making like everyone who you actually take through the entire process have gone through the resources?
No,
How to
no.
make that mandatory? Because like the thing is, if they haven't gone through it, like what's the likelihood you're ever going to sell that person?
And yeah,
It's
and
probably
like
next to nothing.
yeah.
Yeah. Because it reminds me of like a crypto offer to where it's like this special thing and blah blah blah. And it's like the team tried so hard to sell people who like just didn't go through the resources. It's like you're fighting an uphill battle, man. Like they
Yeah.
just don't know. So it's like once we just shifted to like, okay, if they don't go through it, you reschedule, fucking close rates just went like skyrocketed.
Hmm.
Because it's like they just needed to be educated. It wasn't anything like anybody was doing wrong. There's these people like it's a blue ocean that just don't know.
Yeah.
So if we just make it mandatory, it's like, okay, well, it's like again, it goes through a lot of technical things, and again, like we only have a limited time for our call today. So do you feel like it would be beneficial? Because like again, I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want to mull over the important details of this. Like, would it make sense to actually reschedule so you have time to go through that so we can have our chat?
Okay.
So, like, how much volume are you getting?
They have me capped at 4 calls a day right now. If I can
Okay.
get my CPA is like 2,500, and so
Mhm.
if I can get that down or 2,800, if I can get it down to 2,500, I can open up my calendar as much as I want.
Okay, cool. So there's 2 ways we can go about it, right? We can go ahead and we can just reschedule anyone who doesn't go through it. What I would do if I was you, because especially if we're at 4 calls a day, I would like typically how far are they like booked out?
As far as like in my calendar,
Mhm.
it depends. Usually early in the week, we'll book out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are pretty thin, and I may actually get, like
So typically like a day or 2 in advance.
yeah,
So it's every like as they come in, like call each of the new leads, mini triage them, make sure you send over the resource, you get the buy-in that they're going to go through it.
yeah,
And then that's when like that's going to increase like the likelihood they go through it because they actually talk to somebody. Because again, like they book this and then they send an email like, hey, go through this shit. That's typically how the emails are basically formulated. But then if they talk to somebody and they get buy-in, like, oh no, that's interesting, that would help. Um, then they're more likely to go through it. I would say that's probably the biggest thing is if you just do that, it's probably not much without listening to this call. It's hard for me to say,
yeah.
but I assume like there's not a lot that maybe would change too much with the sales, like the conversation you're having. But if these people are just more primed, like the likelihood they're gonna buy is just gonna fucking skyrocket.
And then as far as the other thing that I want to ask you about really quick is
Uh-huh.
pre-handling price. Do
Uh-huh.
you, how do you generally do that?
So when we're talking about pre-handling price, it's really only if they're going to bring it up. Like, okay, like what's prevented you from like doing anything like more serious in the past? Like, oh, I just the money. Like, how do you mean the money? Right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I just haven't the money for this. Well, can I share your perspective? And it's like, yes. And it's like typically I'm gonna bridge into it. I like to use a Tony Robbins quote, right? It's like can I share your perspective? Yes. Like my favorite quote was by Tony Robbins, right? And it goes, humans' biggest resource is their ability to be resourceful. Just most
Right.
people are resourceful in how they can't be resourceful. You know what I mean? And they're like, I've never said nobody go, no, I don't know what you, yeah, I know what you mean. And it's like, so what's preventing you from being resourceful, man?
Yeah. So they're going to say, oh, well, I guess, I mean, it just hasn't really seemed like there's anything out there that even would work for me or something like that. So then we're getting into like how it works, I guess, right?
Yeah. So it's like, then we bring it back to that. So if there was something that you feel like genuinely would work for you, like, would you be willing to actually get resourceful for it? Because if not, like, man, I'll tell you, hey, just keep doing what you're doing now.
And
I
if
mean, you
they
can
bring
pull
that
away a
up
little
early in
bit.
the conversation, like, what do I need to know? Like, what you came here for? They're gonna say, well, like, just what it is that this is, how it works, and then of course, like the price. Is there any point if they're pretty price conscious from the beginning, even if they don't like say that's what's held me back, but they're very price conscious, like, do you generally roll into that at some point in the conversation before the?
No, because I don't want to assume that they don't have the money or they're not gotten resourceful unless they tell me, right? Because if we assume that shit about them, like, especially if they tend to be a more type A person, it might piss them off, right?
Yeah.
So again, just like the fuse, like, oh, it's going to be custom depending on what you need, blah blah blah. And then if we go into like, what's preventing you from doing something more intensive, then if they bring up money, then that's when I would just bridge into that. So I don't want to put people in boxes that they don't belong.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Make sense?
Yep. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Let me know how that goes. Like I feel like if you just make that one shift, like probably double your close rate. Like for real.
Appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Alrighty. All right, Sebastian, let me go ahead. Let me pull you up here, man.
Cool.
Howdy, bro.
Yes. How you doing?
Good,
So
man.
I want to work on my downselling. Now I do a dating coaching offer. It's 3K. The 3K is easy. Like I've implemented a lot of stuff that I've gone through with you. It took my close rate from like 10 to like 55 this week %.
Nice.
Yeah. And then now I want to increase the AOV from 3 to 5, but every time I start at a 5, it just shuts them down and they're not. I just like can't have no opportunity to close and they just say no and no. But if I start at 3, it's easy.
Okay. So, couple things. Now, without hearing the calls, it's going to be hard to sell. But oftentimes, if they're completely price shocked, there could be a couple things that are coming up. Like number one, the way that we're presenting things change. And if you're thinking it's a big jump in your head, even if you're not even conscious that you're doing anything, like there might be very, very small things that are coming across that can just cause them to put their walls up. Number two, if you do get a lot of price shock, I would always mention that there's different options of breaking it up. It's going to depend on what works best for you. Right. So I'd always add that part in there. Yeah. And that price is not a big
deal. That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how I get guys on the 3K easy because I do that process. But the avatar essentially doesn't exactly have all that money. In August, I did a bunch of 5 and 10K sales. But we came out with the 3K. It's just easier to get majority of people. So I guess it's kind of hard to pick and choose kind of who to present it to. We do a lot of financing.
So I would say if you just understand that you're dealing with a very broke demographic, then just I would have typically it's what I do, right? Like you have a couple different like programs that you can put them in, and if they hit certain benchmarks, then that's the one I'll pitch them, right? So like for the majority of the time I had like a 3, an 8, 16, and like a 27. And if they hit certain benchmarks, that would just depend on which one I was going to present them. Like most of the time, I always pitch the 8, right? That way, it's very easy to downsell to the 3. But like they had to be past a certain point for me to pitch the 16, and they had to be like above 500K for me to pitch the 27.
Okay, yeah, because we have a like online curriculum and it's a lot of coaching. So whether they give us 20K or 500 for just like a monthly recurring super light coaching, it's the same education. It's just the level of coaching and how many like one-on-ones they get is the only difference, and then access to the influencer. So there's not like a crazy difference.
Yeah. So I would say if you are noticing like a bunch of price shock, then again, I would try to have the criteria in your mind of like who's going to pitch what. Then I would say big thing is when you're downselling, okay, like let's just say they just don't have the money. I still want to get buy-in that they really need to do this before I'm going to.
That's what I started doing. That's exactly what I do. And then I'll maybe do like 1 a week at 5K, and then I'll do like 10 3Ks or something.
Yeah. So as far as like getting, like, let's say you're wanting to get more 5Ks. Okay. So the thing is, you do not give up until you categorically know it's in their bank account.
So just keep pushing And if they're like,
Yeah.
I just can't. Like if I apply, like,
Yeah.
do I take it as far as applying to financing or?
Yeah. So
Okay.
you go through like the money, right? Like you go through that. Hey, like what's riskier, all that stuff. We get buy-in that they're committed to change. Money's
Yeah.
easy, commitment's hard. Boom. Like you put
Exactly
that
what I
frame
said.
on them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Then it's like, okay, what can you do? Right. Then it's
Mhm.
like bills, expenses aside, like what are you actually working with? That's typically what I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
Then they're like, again, if you've done a good job and you've connected with them, they'll tell you what's in their fucking bank account. Right? They're like, dude, I only have $500. I'm like, okay, been there
Yeah.
before. I get where you're coming from. Can I
Mhm.
make a suggestion? And then you can go into financing. So then now you just know what they're working with. And then from there, like try to finance them for the 5K. And if they can't, then just sell them whatever you can at that point.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So that's what I would do. Just like don't immediately go into it. Like go through the entire process for the money, get the buy-in, see if they can do the financing. And then the downsell is always like the last thing. And the way that you always like want to transition into it, it's like, hey man, I really want to see you win. So here's what I can do.
Yeah.
Right now I'm giving them this lifeline because if you've done it right, they're like, fuck man, I can't. Exactly what I needed. Like I don't have the money. It's like, all right, man, I want to see you win. Here's what I can do.
Yeah.
Right? Can you do this? Right now, you're on the same side of the table, and you're just giving them solutions to solve their problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Make
sense?
Sense?
That's what I was kind of thinking, just going really hard in that aspect. I just wanted confirmation on, is that the right way to go about it? But I appreciate
absolutely,
it.
man. And if you're getting great results, man, post a testimonial, post a one.
I just joined a couple days ago.
Okay.
I got to jump. I got a call. So
Absolutely, man. Okay, running a little bit behind, so let's see if we can't bust through these a little bit quick. Howdy, dude. How can I help?
Hey man, how's it going? You can hear me,
It's
right?
going pretty good. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So I had the call last time with you. It's really insightful. I hope you. I'm not sure if you remember, but I actually went through the entire. Like I joined like 2 days back, maybe like almost 2 days back. I completed the entire framework. It was really. I have like all the ammo that I need right now.
Yeah.
And the coming week is like full of like sales calls for me. That's positive. So one thing that I wanted to, there's two things that I wanted to first of all focus on. Number one is, since I am right now in the stage, the business is like, very new. There's not enough testimonials in place. I mean, like there is nothing apart from just a few results that we've got last month. So I'm trying to sell them in an industry. It's like mortgage brokers, right? I'm selling to them, right? So they don't get a loan until it's like 3 months in, 3-4 months minimum, and I cannot sell them on a loan as well. I can only get them to an application. So I want to sell them per application at least like $200 or more per application. Plus I want them to commit to a specific number of ad spend on a daily basis as well. So on their part, it's like a monthly 4,000 commitment. But for my part, it's like maximum I can charge 2,000 a month, right?
Okay.
So how can I sell that to them, like on a longer commitment with that much expense as an investment on a monthly basis?
So when we're talking about how to get that across the line, so if you don't have the results, like something I would always make sure that you do have is like you lean more on the technicals of the mechanism, how it works, and why it's better than everything else, right? Because again, like you just need to make it make sense. Now, the shortcut to that is having the results. So like definitely have those in there, but like let's say like what they see before they talk to you, like you probably just go a lot more in depth on like how the mechanism works. So when you're explaining it, when it needs to be like longer term, it's gonna be, because especially when you're talking about, because you sell to mortgage brokers.
Yes, mortgage brokers, loan officers, yeah.
Okay, so you do have to understand, most mortgage brokers are broke.
Yeah,
okay?
most of.
So just understand that, like the demographic you're selling to. So if you're going to be targeting those people, the biggest thing is like making sure like they have a team and they have like the ad spend to actually put into it. And for you, what I would do, like in your pre like call process, like probably make it to where like we have some disqualifiers. to where you're not talking to people like, you know, just one mortgage broker and he doesn't have, you know what I mean? Like there's nothing you could do to get that guy to commit to like 4K a month in ad spend. You know
No,
what I
it's
mean?
like $2K a month, let's say $1,500 a month in ad spend plus $2K in service fee. Yeah.
Okay. So like 1,500 a month in ad spend, but you only get paid like once they put in an application.
So we like, you know, it's like a prepaid model that we're going after. So you commit to a specific number of application forefront.
Okay.
And then we get the commitment and then we start ramping it up.
Yeah. So then I would say, yeah, again, some of it is just going to be like who you're targeting. Okay. So I would put some qualifications in there to where it's like, you know, can this person spend $4,000? Because most of the mortgage brokers that you're going to talk to are just like dead broke. So if you have a good funnel that's like bringing people in, probably what you should do is just like maybe add in an extra qualifier that's going to weed that out a little bit.
I mean, we are actually doing like everything is like cold calling. That's on the front end, right? So
yeah,
we can put that qualifier in the call itself, maybe like how much do you, what's the production right now? That can be the factor, like, okay, $1 million in production a month. That's a good fit for us. So yeah, we can do that. So do you
so
think
it's just like an extra qualifier, just make it to where you're just going to have better conversations just overall. Like you're talking to people who aren't like dead ass broke.
So, I mean, like, let's say we have the qualification in place and then they hop on. So they're qualified pretty much on the, you know, to have this discussion. Then how do I present that in that, you know, in such a way that, okay, you know what, 4 months, I want at least like to look you to have patience and commit to this for 3 months until we get something tangible for you.
Well, some of that is just going to come in like the indoctrination process. So like, just like I was telling Amar, like with the cold call, like there should be something that they're watching that at least on some level also is going to give them the expectations of how this works. Now, when you're dealing with like companies who are doing a little bit better, they're going to already have some of those expectations in place because they're not high in the sky. Like one problem is with broke people is they don't know how shit works. So that's going to solve a lot of that issue is just like, you know, oh, like they actually have a functioning business. They know things don't happen overnight. So, and just putting that like in the expectation of how it goes. And then I would say something that I've seen work quite well is like having like a doc or like an Excel spreadsheet that shows them like the return on ad spend and how it works. Like, so it just, a lot of it is just going to be a bit of education of why it takes that long. What do they see the return on ad spend and all those different things.
So that's more in the like pre-call or in the presentation?
So we want to have some in the pre-call and we also want to have it in presentation.
Okay. So presentation is more like ROI focused. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. So like once you go into it, like how the mechanisms work, and then here's the ROI.
Okay. All right.
Right. So like it needs to, like the numbers need to make sense.
Okay. All right. It makes sense. So these two things can wrap this up. Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, see, we're working in the US, right? You know, with US people in the US. And we are based on operating from India, right? So I know that this is not a big deal for them, but if it's shared upfront, then it's not a big deal, right? But if it's hidden in the call, then it comes up at some time, at some point in the first 10 calls, it came up. So now what I did is like I put that in security, like it's in security, right? Kind of. So I put that in front of the call that, hey, 60 seconds. Here's the reasons why you can't work together. This can be a deal breaker. If it's okay, then we move on, right? Do you think that can be that can put off that the wrong way?
If you have like an insecurity or something like that, you can definitely just like call it out at the beginning, right? Like, hey, like excuse me on like my Indian accent or something like that. Like whatever it is, I would say you're probably overthinking it. Like if it comes up, you can address it. But again, like if you have like your website or something like that and like mentions where like I don't really think people care too much about like, hey, where is it, like where are they located, as long as they get the job done.
Okay.
So that could be like a barrier putting on yourself that doesn't need to be there. So I would say if you want to call it out, like you can just like, hey, like, you know, apologies on the Indian accent, something like that, like make a joke of it, right? Like you don't take yourself too seriously. That's a good way to start off. But I would say unless it's constantly coming up, and you see that it's an issue, like let's not try to address an issue that you don't have any, like that's not really coming up. You know what I mean?
I mean, first 10 calls that I took, like total of, let's say 45, 50. And then first 10, it always like sometime later, they always ask like where exactly you're from. And I feel that tension all throughout the call, right? So I'm not able to focus on the call. Then what I did is like the last 40, I brought that up and then it just went away. So I could focus on this. But after
they keep bringing it up. But I would say like a lot of that sounds like it's internal, not external.
Okay.
Which is fine, right? So if it makes you more comfortable on the call, just keep doing it because it's making you comfortable. But what I'm saying is you could still be comfortable without that. It's something that's internal. Okay. So yeah, but if it's working and it's making you comfortable, just keep doing it. I want to change anything. So yeah, calling it out definitely can like help just ease the tension. But I do have to hop to another call. But if you have any more questions, just definitely go ahead and you know, put them in the school, and then I'll go ahead and I'll see you guys next week. All right. Have a good one, guys.